In this episode, let's talk about the 4 different types of introvertedness in your personality that may be keeping you away from networking events and actually getting any paying clients. I think a lot of coaches are trying to figure a way to go out there and spread their message, but then they're feeling stuck in terms of, I don't know how and where to find those clients. And to be honest, there's really, I categorize them into 2 possibilities. You can either do it an in-person networking event, or you can do it like what I did, do it 100% online using social media, leveraging social media, building an audience on social media. And the reason why I chose to do 100% online and remote is that now, first of all, my schedule just too tight. I was working full time at another job, and so my days are very limited. I know a lot of my followers and students, they also have another job while they're trying to build their coaching business. So from 9 to 5, they'll be working at a full-time job, and then after the hours they're trying to build that business and build that online presence and doing all the things that you have to do as a solopreneur. And so it makes perfect sense why a lot of my students and newer coaches feeling burnt out, because first of all, you don't know where to begin and you don't know how to start. And then number 2 is that your time is just very precious and you have very limited amount of time to be able to go out and do the things that you want to do. That includes networking event. Now, as much as you probably knows and recognize the value of connecting with like-minded individuals and having to connect with other business owner, maybe it's another coach, whether it's a virtual networking group or an in-person networking group, it takes time. And time is not something that we have a whole lot of when you have another full-time job. You have to be a busy mom. You have to do all these marketing things by yourself when you're first starting out. You don't have a team. You don't have a partnership. You are starting from scratch. And so that feeling of I have to do a lot in order to get that one client, do these networking event or do referral, that thought, it's paralyzing so much that I remember my first year, I was burned out. I tried local networking group. So at that time I was going around and driving around town in my local area and trying to find all these networking groups that I can tap into. So there's places like Chamber of Commerce where they meet every month or every other week. There's other organization like the Lions Club, the Rotary Club. There's local organization for women's group. I went and searched every single networking group that I can possibly connect myself to and attend, and all of them will have networking events during the day, right? So it would either be a breakfast time or before breakfast, and then there's the lunch hour. They have speakers, they have meals that they bring their members to, and so you use that time and use that hour to connect with another business owner and another modality. Maybe it's a practitioner or office, and there's just it takes a lot of time and energy to having to go through that. And that was the reason why I decided that I wanted to build my business remotely, online, leveraging social media, where I can have full control of my time. And personally, I see time as something that we all have very limited of. Especially if you're in my position where, I used to spend 3 days out of my work days stuck in a place where it wasn't really fulfilling. It was just a job that pays my bill. And between that, I also have, I mean, there's family responsibilities, doctor's appointment, and there's all these personal stuff. And then you're trying to build your coaching business. So how do you juggle and how do you manage and taking control of your time? That was my number one lessons that I have learned. And the first thing I did, for those of you who are new coaches out there, the first thing that I did was not doing anything significant or magnificent at all. The first thing that I did was just simply getting a calendar so I can share it with my potential client, and hopefully, that will allow me to block out some of the dates, and that I can see my client, I can do my discovery call. And so my first step was just simply getting a calendar, that nothing else. And then slowly progress. I realized I need a contract. I need I need a website. I need all these other stuff. I need to have a platform where maybe I share some exercise with clients or follow up with clients. And I start thinking about the fancy tools that you need to start your coaching business. But the first thing I did was just getting a calendar, because I realized that how precious our time is. And as an introvert, I love and enjoy the privacy time, right? If I have given the choice of being in a group setting or being alone, I much rather doing things alone. And I remember back then, I had business besties where I connect with them through online courses and program that I've taken. And every time my business bestie would say, "Oh, let's get together to have a co-working hours," I'm always the one who said, I think I work best by myself. So I'm kind of introverted in that sense, where I do things more efficiently and better when I do it by myself. But I do enjoy that community sense, where if I have a problem or question, I can go to the community and ask them, or ask people who have already done it before me. And I would ask them to see how they have done it. And so I can tweak it, spin it, and change it so that it becomes something that of my own. Speaking of community, if you have not heard already, I am starting a founding member prize right now. So speaking of personality, as an introvert, there's 4 different subtype of us. So I want you to actually pay attention to this, because who you are and what you do and why you're doing it will impact the strategies and the system that you use for your marketing. Some people really enjoy being in the crowd or being in the party mode. So that networking or that how you reach out to your clients and how you get in front of people will be very different compared to someone who might have to plan through and see through in order to have a way of believing that this is going to work, right? So there's four subtype of introvert, and I want you to think about like which subtype do you actually belong to? Because I think a lot of the women I work with, some of them don't realize that their personality is really the one that's stepping in the way to do things or not do things. And there's a lot of us, introverted women coaches, we do things very differently. That's just how we are. And so the 4 subtypes of introvert personalities are: you can be either a social introvert, you could be a anxious introvert, you could be a thinking introvert, and you could also be a restrained, or kind of reserved introvert. So each of these different subtypes, so the whole concept of different types of introvertedness or introverts was proposed by this psychologist. His name is Jonathan Cheek. And he based it on the idea that it's not just one single type of introversion. There's actually different dimension of the characteristics, the overall personality trait that each one of us, even within the types, we have. So he categorized into these 4 different subtypes. So again, they're social introvert, they're the thinking introvert, anxious introvert, and also restrained or reserved introvert. And so social introvert don't like the crowd. They do see themselves in the crowd, but when they are in the crowd, typically they're the one who's like maybe staying in the corner, they're doing something else other than talking and enjoying to like connecting with other people. It's not that they don't like it, it's just that they feel more comfortable, maybe just being in the corner in their own world. And they do attend these networking groups, but they're just in a different space and different dimension. The thinking introverts are those who spend a lot of time doing a lot of thinking. They're in their head, their imaginary imagination is just really, really skilled and talented. So when you ask them, they're really great in terms of developing that inner personal development life. So these are the people who would spend a lot of time thinking about philosophical questions that we have in life, right? So if you found yourself spending a lot of time reading and thinking and pondering what life means, then maybe you might be leaning towards a thinking introvert. There's also the 3rd type, which is the anxious type, anxious introvert. The anxious introvert are those who get pretty nervous. It makes them feel uncomfortable when they are in the crowd, and they would feel more comfortable if they're just spending a lot of that alone time that we know. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be alone. At some point, I do feel like a lot of people just makes me uncomfortable, and I would be looking for the exit all the time. So, it's a funny story because every time I go into a movie theater, what I do is the first thing I do is I look for the exit sign. I was trained to be that way. So as a healthcare professional, I have 20 years of healthcare professional experience. And during my training, it is essential. It is a requirement that we go through fire hazard or fire safety training. And during this fire safety training, we're always taught that, the first thing that you should be doing is thinking about your exiting plan. And so you don't want to get stuck. And in order to do that, that I got into a habit of every time I go to a movie theater, because it's so crowded, it's so dark, right? So I think about, okay, so should there be a fire, what would be my escape route? And I'll tell you that most people would start going out, exiting from where they came in, right? It's just human nature. That's where we came in. So our mind is fixed. This is the way out. So the first thing that people would do is they'll exit from where they enter. And so in fire hazard or fire safety, what you learn and what you do is you don't want to exit from where you came in. There's always alternative exit. So you got to know where your alternative exit is. And so that when things do, when hell breaking loose, you have alternative ways so that you don't find yourself trapped where everybody is trying to get out. And there's a horrible story where people there was a fire at a I think it was in New York City, and people were stuck by the exit where they came in, and apparently it was people got trapped and they were falling apart, they're tripping down each other. And so it's just horrible to hear stories like that. So I got into a habit. That was a long story. I got into a habit of looking for my exit. And so for anxious introverts, that, being in the crowd is very uncomfortable. And And to me, occasionally, depending on the crowd, the size, it does make me uncomfortable. It doesn't make me to the point where I am like consciously anxious. I just prefer to work alone. That's the whole thing I'm sharing. I just prefer to be working alone. I remember a couple of years ago, I was connecting with two other coaches, and we got into this accountability pods, like accountability group. And I remember they always wanted to work together. So we created co-working hours. I think co-working hour is great. And it's a great, phenomenal ideas to hold each other accountable, and you'll meet together. Each one of us would be on the computer, and it was during the COVID time, so everybody would be on the computer, and you're just kind of working together on your own things. And after 45 minutes, we'll come back to the Zoom, and we'll unmute ourselves and share, what we're working on, what are some of the wins, and we'll go back and work on our stuff again. Even that, I don't feel very productive. And I feel I'm much more efficient and productive when I'm working alone. I can get things done much quickly than if I were to work with other people. And so you might, if that's you, you might be someone who's also, or you feel that, the big crowd just makes you feel anxious or nervous. You don't know what to do, where to put your hand. You might fall into that anxious introvert category. And then the last group, that subtype is reserved introvert, or these are restrained introvert. So these are the type of introvert where you do a lot of thinking. You need to see and plan ahead, and it takes you a while to plan things ahead, to plan things and see what's coming before you take action. So if you find yourself in a place where your coaching business is not moving, and you're spending a lot of time doing the planning, spending a lot of time thinking about how this is going to work and wanting to make it work, you might be in that subtype of restraint or reserve introvert. So instead of taking action and just let your action determine the results that you're going to get, you want to see the result first before you take the action. And so it's about risk taking, right? When you take action without seeing the results, there's a level of risk that in itself, it makes you feel uncomfortable. So it could be that your friend is inviting you to a bungee jumping or skydive. You're like, no, that's a lot of risk. Let me think about it. So you spend a lot of time thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking without taking any action. So if this is something that you found yourself wanting to get out there and wanting to spread the message, wanting to get your coaching business going, but you notice that you do a lot of spending time planning and writing things out, plotting everything, wanting to see the result. But if you don't get it out there, right, you're not going to see any result. So you have to take the action. And this is where business become such a, like starting your coaching business and scaling your coaching business becomes so challenging for especially the reserved subtype of introvert, because in order to see your business flourish and grow, you do need to have that inherited risk of doing the business, right? Business is risky because you put something out there and you don't know what the result would be. And so you won't see any result until you have that action. And this is where a lot of reserved introvert feel overwhelmed and feeling discouraged because they do spend a lot of time thinking and really trying to, whether it's speaking up or whether it's putting an idea or testing it, it's the risk that they have to take in order to see that result. That is what's holding them back. And that is what's stopping them from getting their business going to be where they want. And so each one of the subtype has advantage and disadvantage if you think about like in the business environment, right? The social introvert, if you're spending a lot of time going into networking and you're not connecting with anybody and you're just kind of being in the corner and feeling reserved and you're just doing your own things, then why go to networking event in the first place, right? Are there any different way that you can do this? Even without attending those networking events, or even without just being in that awkward situation where all these other people are talking, but you're just at the corner by yourself. So for me, I'm kind of like the social introvert. I enjoy talking to people, like deep, meaningful conversation, but I don't like to be in that environment where people are like just, gathering around. They're doing the small talk. Oh, how's your kids? How's Michael doing? How's Amy doing? How's and it just doesn't. Number one, I don't have the kids, so I can't really participate in that conversation. And number two, I like how does that have to do with anything with your business? Like none. And so that's just cut through the chase, right? To me, is that just cut through the chase and just get to the business. But then that's not the way that you build relationship, especially in an in-person setting, right? You got to talk to people, and sometimes those small talk is essential to give people an opportunity to connect with you. And so that's not something that I enjoy. So as a social introvert, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to create my own platform. So I started a podcast. I have my own YouTube channel, and I have my own videos. I have my own group. You know what? If you can find it elsewhere, you might as well just create it. That's my thinking. And so I found that in-person networking is not something this social introvert enjoy. So I'm going to build my business online, and I'm going to create my own space so that I don't have to rely on someone else, and I can have meaningful conversation by putting out educational content like this. And so going through each different subtype, what you want to do is you want to think about which subtype do you fall under, and with that subtype, what are some other alternative way that you can think of, and be creative, right? When you're starting a coaching business, it really comes down to, can you think innovatively? Can you be creative? Think outside the box. It doesn't have to be, oh, that person is doing this and therefore I have to do that too. No, you have your own personality. You have your own style. Do it your way. And there's nothing wrong with doing it your way. But you do have to be consistent, right? So when I come to your social media channel, or when I see you, it has to be a level of consistency in order for people to follow you and to see a pattern that, hey, I can trust you because this is something that you do all the time. And so as thinking introvert, perhaps it's a book club, maybe it's a meetup group that you host where you invite people to think with you, right? It could be a philosophical topic that you're exploring for that particular week. There's other networking group where you go in and you think together. Maybe it's a journaling club. You sit down, or plan with me, like a YouTube. I cannot tell you how many plan with me channel I follow on YouTube, and I can spend hours and hours watching them, just sitting down and plan with them. And a lot of time they're just talking in their head, like they're just talking to themselves, just like what I'm doing now, right? I'm recording a podcast, but the same time I'm just really in the room by myself and I'm talking to myself. So if that's something that you enjoy, do more of that, but be creative on how you come up with it. And then there's anxiety introvert. So if you find yourself likes to working by yourself, work by yourself, and maybe create a community where other people would like to come together. But each time you post or share something, you're kind of like individually sharing stuff. But you're doing it in a community sense, right? If I need resources, I can go to that resource. If I need something, I can count on there's always going to be someone out that's there to answer my question. So you don't necessarily need to place yourself inside the crowd in order to accomplish what you want to accomplish. You can totally do things by yourself. Like I'm doing the podcast right now, and there's nobody around me to to talk, but I'm working, right? So there's alternative way of getting your message out there and spreading it, and so that your clients can find you. And you have to get out of your head and start taking some action in order to see the result. And so again, if you're someone who's restrained or reserved introvert, and you notice that you're doing a lot of planning and not action, then today I want to challenge you to take one item that you have been planning for the last 3 months, okay? The one idea that you've been having for the last 3 months, and just do that one thing. Just take action on that one thing that you've been planning all these 3 months. Just do that one thing. And I promise you, once you start taking that action, you're going to have that information whether or not this is going to work. Hey, if it's not working, you let me know. You reach out to me and let me know, and I can help you with that. I can help you, okay? But what I need you to do, those of you who are reserved introvert and you are just not taking any actions, and you're still thinking and planning, and you wanted to make sure that the risk is low before you believe that this is going to work. If that's you, I want you to do one thing this week, and you reach out to me if it's not working, because I have walked your shoes and I know how to fix it. Okay. So, but I want to challenge you to just take that one action, because I know as a reserved introvert, you're doing a lot of thinking, but you're not taking action. And in order for your business to flourish, to go and to scale, to launch, whatever you want to call it, you have to take action. All right. So just to quickly sum up, we're introverted female coaches, but even with the word introvert, there are 4 different subtypes, and understanding which type you are is going to help you in terms of designing your business based on who you are, why you do it, instead of keep focusing on what is it I'm helping people with, what makes me different, and how am I any different? Am I any different? Stop thinking about that and just being yourself. Being yourself means that you recognize your personality, you recognize the way that you do things, and you never have to follow someone else's footstep in order to have a successful coaching business. Okay, so what are those 4 subtypes? Those 4 subtypes are social introvert, they're thinking introvert, anxious introvert, and also reserved introvert. Now, think about which of these subtypes that you fall or have a tendency leaning towards, because that self-awareness is really important, right? So if you catch yourself avoiding people, or you're finding yourself believing that I have to do this alone, then challenge your thought and challenge your idea, because that's a thinking pattern that you go to, you default to more often than not. So if I were to think outside the box as a social introvert, this week, I might just, go and attend an in-person networking event and see what opportunity is out there. If I don't like it, no harm, no foul, right? I can always stop. But giving yourself an opportunity to think outside the box, I think it's going to do your business wonders. So hopefully you find this helpful. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast and give me a like or comments down in the comment section below. I would love to hear which of the 4 subtypes, which one of the 4 subtypes do you believe you are in terms of your introverted personality?